Apex programming and combination. So before I start, let me know how many of you are new to the programming in this class. Like people, okay. Based on that only, I can let you know how many people are okay. How many people don't have the skills of writing a program? Like you will let me know clearly. Then we will see from what extent we have to start. Right. Okay. Chalo. How many of you know programming at the rest? Right. So rest of the people in the confusion. So right. Chalo. Let me start. Let me start the structure. We will first understand what is a structure oriented programming and a procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. There are two types of things what we have: procedure oriented programming and procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. What is a procedure oriented programming? When you say procedure oriented programming, I told first let us understand structure and procedure. Now, when I say procedure oriented programming, I told Ravi, take this 1,000 rupees, go to the restaurant, have your lunch, come back to the organization. Okay, Ravi, take this 1,000, go to the parking, take my car, go to the IMAX, go to counter number 2, delivery. Okay, give 1,000 rupees to Prasad. Prasad will give you 2 tickets, collect it, take the car, come to Captain Info Solution, give me the tickets. Give me the tickets. This what is the procedure. When I say procedure, I told him what is the work that should be done, and I told him how the work should be done. I told him what is the work that should be done, and also I told him what is the work that should be done. I told what is the work that should be done, and I told how the work should be done. So this is what procedure oriented programming. When we say non-procedure oriented programming, Ravi, get me 2 tickets. When you say Ravi, get me 2 tickets, when you say Ravi, get me 2 tickets, then Ravi, get me 2 tickets, then what we do? We are giving only the work. We are not specifying how the work needs to be done. We told what is the work that needs to be done, and we are not specifying how it needs to be done. Ravi can go to IMAX, Ravi can go to eSeva, Ravi can book in the UK Book My Show, or he may send someone, he may go by bike, he may go by car, he may go by walk. Now, we are not interested in how are you doing the work. We are only interested in what is the work I have given you and how you are performing. Okay. Now, non-procedure oriented programming will not specify. Non-procedure oriented programming will not specify what is the work that should be done and how it needs to be done. Now, non-procedure oriented programming, it only worries about what is the work that needs to be done. It is not worried about how it is done. Procedure oriented programming, we have to tell what is the work that should be done and how it needs to be done. So, when you regularly take a methods like, methods, actions, like login, deposit, withdraw, system doesn't know how to implement. We have to tell to the system, login, this is the procedure what you have to follow. Deposit, this is the procedure what you have to follow. Withdraw, this is the procedure what you have to follow. Now you are telling what is the name of the action, and also you are telling how the action should be performed. You are telling what is the name of the action and how the action should be performed. When you say non-procedure oriented programming, it's like your SQL. Say, get all the data from database. Get the data from student table. Now, internally, what is the process they are following? We are not giving any instruction. We are only saying, get me the data from employee table. Get me the data from student table. We are only giving. So we have not typed anything. Please stop typing the messages. Right. Right. Now, it will only convey how the work need to be done. Okay, how the work need to be done. Non-procedure, it only conveys what is the work. So when you say SQL, database queries, all this will fall the non-procedure languages. Then we have structure-oriented programming and object-oriented programming. Now look at the point. Now when I look at this, I had an example. Now, there are three people who are trying to there are three people. So we had Shyam, Ram, Kiran. Shyam, Ram, Kiran is a 5th class student, is a 10th class student, and is a BTech student. Is a 10th class student, it is a 5th class student, he is a BTech student. All the three people wrote a 10th class exam. All the three people wrote a 10th class exam, and they feel 80. Now, these are the marks what they got in the 10th class exam. They wrote the 10th class exam at a time, and 5th class student got 80, 10th class 90, BTech student has got 100. Now, who is intelligent here? Now they'll ask, first tell me, is it structure-oriented programming or object-oriented programming? I told you it is a structure-oriented programming. When I say structure-oriented programming, now when I say structure-oriented program, they say, we are least bothered about who you are. Give me inputs, I'll give you output. I don't have any priority for the person. I have the priority for the action. If you give me input, I'll give the action. I am same for everyone. I don't give high priority or low priority based on the person. If you give the input, I'll give the output. Now with this 80, 90, 100, now structure-oriented programming says, now Kiran as intelligent student. Structure-oriented programming says, Kiran as intelligent. Structure-oriented programming says, Kiran as intelligent. Now when you go for the next, now we have object-oriented programming. Then it says, first, who are you? I am 5th class student. How many you got? 80. Who are you? Ram, 10th class student, 90 marks. Who are you? Kiran, BTech student, 100 marks. Now, the action will change based on the priority, based on the person. Now they say, Ram, you are intelligent. Because they are giving importance to the person first, then to the action. When you say structure-oriented programming, now it doesn't matter who you are. If you give me input, I'll find out the output and give you. Now let anybody give me input, I'll do the same action. I don't behave differently for different people. I behave in the same way, let it be anyone. If you give me input, I'll calculate the output and give you. But whereas when you go to object-oriented programming, I am giving priority to the person to person, my behavior will change. I hope you got my point. Let's give it in another way. So as for the object-oriented programming, who is intelligent here? Ram. Because the priority is given to the object, then to the action. First the person, then action. Structure-oriented programming, first the action, then person. Now let me give another way. I went to a movie theater. I want to purchase a ticket. When I'm standing in the queue to purchase a movie ticket, then he told the price of the ticket is. Then he told price of the ticket. Now he told price of the ticket is 200 rupees. I was about to take a ticket. Then my corporator came. Then the counter person who is sitting in the counter told, "Boss Satish, can you wait? Corporator shop came. Let me issue the ticket to him." Then he told, "Boss, okay, come first and take the ticket." So the priorities have changed based on the person. Now the MLAs have came. They told free of the cost. Take free ticket and go, boss. Others will wait. Now Modi Saab came, theatre is yours, take. Now what is that? Now what is happening? Based on the person, the way the treatment is given by the person who is sitting in the counter is changing. So the actual cost of the ticket is 200 rupees. Cost of the ticket is 200 rupees. But for me it is 200. When corporate came, they told 150. When MLA came, they told 100. When PM came, they told 50 rupees. Now the action has changed based on the person who entered it. It is not the same action which is done by the person who is sitting in the counter. So person to person, the action was changing. Now all of us are trying to do what? Booking a ticket. We are trying to book a ticket. The same procedure we are following. The same we are following. But the same action we are following. But the procedure has changed person to person. So the priority is given to the person. The person who is sitting in the counter is very sincere guy. Now he came, corporate came, stand in the queue. MLA came, stand in the queue. PM came, stand in the queue. Follow the order. Now this guy is not giving importance to the person. Whoever is coming, asking them to stand in the queue, come in order. Now this is what? This guy is what? Structure-oriented program. You give 200, I'll give ticket. I am corporator, good. Give me 200, I'll give you ticket. I am MLA, good. Give me 200, I'll give you ticket. I am not worried about who you are. Give me the input, I'll give you output. Give me input, I'll give you output. Give me input, I'll give you output. I hope you got. So object-oriented programming, higher priority is given to the object than to the action. Object to object, the actions may change. The procedures may change. I hope you got my point. I hope you got my point. So structure-oriented programming and object-oriented programming. Then why we have to go for object-oriented programming? Look at the point. Now I want to convey a message. I want to convey a message. Tomorrow class is postponed by 50 minutes. This I am announcing in the class. This I am announcing in the class. When you announce in the class, 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 right? Now students are here, faculty is here, both of are here. You are the data, I am the data, you are the people who are using this data. Both of us are in the classroom. I announced that tomorrow class is postponed. You got the message. The second story, you left to your homes. Then I want to convey a message that class is postponed. Then what should I do? Give a call to every student, inform that class is postponed. Sometimes you may pick the call, you may not pick the call. So message may be delivered, may not be delivered. But I have to inform each and every student. If I fail to inform anyone, tomorrow if you come to the class, you start making noise. Boss, you didn't inform me. Right, I came from Gachibowli, you didn't inform me that class is postponed. Now there is a noise. Now why? Because you are not in the class. You left to home, then I try to make an attempt. If I announce in the class, what will happen? The message is automatically delivered to everyone. Because data and actions together in the same block. In the second case, data is here. The people who are using the data at different location. That's why message is not delivered properly. Data is here, actions are at some other location. So that's the reason message is not delivered properly. Message is not delivered properly. Message is not delivered properly. I hope you are good. I hope you are good with this. Right. So we are trying to understand object-oriented programming where data and actions will be at one location. Higher priority is given to the object than the actions. When you say object-oriented programming, they have some thumb rules. Abstraction. First thumb rule we have is abstraction. What is an abstraction? What is an abstraction? What is an abstraction? First thumb rule, abstraction. When you say abstraction, what is the meaning of abstraction? Look at the point. When you go to the bank, you want to withdraw the money. Are you going to ask the ATM, are you using Java? Then only you will withdraw the money. If you are using Oracle database, then only you will withdraw the money. Okay, what functionality you are using, what programming language you are using, are you worried about those things? When you go to ATM, we are least bothered about what you do, how you do. What we are interested in is what is the service you are trying to provide me. When I go to ATM, now I am only interested on what the service they give. Mitra. Okay, mini statement. Mini statement. Change the password. Mitra, mini statement. Change the password. These are the services what they are giving. I am only worried about what are the services you are providing. I am not worried about how are you providing. Abstraction. It is a collection of services what you are trying to offer. It is a collection of services what you are trying to offer. We are not going to convey how they are going to be offered. We are going to convey the list of services what we are going to offer. We are not going to convey how we are offering. When you come for a inquiry, we say we cover these topics. How we are going to cover, which point we are going to insist, that we will not be conveying. We say list of the topics what we cover. We are only giving the information about services what we offer. We say we help you in resume making, but how I am going to take, when I am going to take, am I going to type it and give you? Am I going to give you an existing copy, ask you to modify and come back to me? Now what is the procedure I follow? I am not conveying. I am only conveying the service what I will give it to you. So abstraction is nothing but list of services what we are offering. It will not convey any message about how they are offering. It will convey about list of services what we are offering. It will not convey how we are offering. Abstraction. List of services what we are trying to offer. List of services what we are trying to offer. And it will not convey how it is going to offer. It is an abstraction in the mobile phone. Now, green button, call will go, red button, call will disconnect. Okay, round symbol, WhatsApp, message will go, message will come. Are we worried internally what bandwidth they are using, what IEEE format they are using, what code they wrote? Okay, is it a transport layer security, network layer security, right? Are we looking at these structures? We are not interested. We are only interested on what services it is giving. A call, disconnect, connect, and send a message, receive a message. We are only worried about services, what they are offering. We are not worried about how they are offering, which is called abstraction. I hope you got my point. Now the simple other one, a simple example. When you put a resume, you say you have experience of 3 years of experience on the following topics. Will you write all the code what you wrote in the company? Because I have experience on this particular topic. This is the code what I wrote in last 3 years. Will you put all the code in the resume? No. You are only giving list of services what you can offer. I am good at Java. I am good at Salesforce. I am good at big data. This is the services what I have. How are you going to provide the service? You are not mentioning in the resume. That will be discussed in the interview. I am only giving list of services or technologies on which I can work. Now, how you are going to work, how you are going to perform, that will be discussed in due course of time. But now in the resume, I only specify what technologies I can work on, what concepts I can work on, how you work. How you work, we will discuss it later. But right now in the resume only I say, I know this, I can perform this. How you perform, whether you can perform or not, it is a second story. Abstraction, your resume is your abstraction. Your resume is your abstraction. I hope you got my point. When you take any novel, in the last page we write abstract of the complete novel what we are going to purchase. Now they say it's a thriller story, it's a crime story, I will say, okay, scientific story. They give an overview, but they don't give the complete story of it. Right? It's only abstraction of the content. It gives list of services what they are offering. but they will not convey how they are offering. It will convey list of services what they are offering, list of services what they are offering. This will not convey how they are offering. I hope you are good. Next, we have encapsulation. When I say encapsulation, the second concept is encapsulation. When I say encapsulation, putting data and actions together and conveying how the actions are performed. Here I told withdraw. How the withdraw will be performed? Withdraw means this is how they are going to perform. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is the withdraw. This is the withdraw what we are going to perform. Now, abstraction says name of the service, encapsulation says service and how they are implemented. When you say withdraw, how the withdraw will run, how they are going to provide a service called withdraw. It not only giving the name of the service, how the service is implemented is also given there. Now, encapsulation, it is a collection of data and actions together. When I say action, name of the action, how the action is performed. Abstraction is what? Name of the actions only. Encapsulation is what? Name of the action and how the action is also performed. The step-by-step procedure for performing action is also given. Abstraction give name of the action. Encapsulation give name of the action and how the action is going to perform step by step. So encapsulation is a collection of data and actions. Encapsulation is a concept of putting data and actions together. Okay. Now if you say abstraction, this will generate a concept called interfaces. In the OOPS, what concept we are going to get? Interfaces. When we say encapsulation, it will generate a concept called class. Concept of interfaces is derived from abstraction. Concept of classes is derived from encapsulation. Abstraction is interface, encapsulation is a class. Now, what is abstraction? It is a collection of services what you are offering. Collection of actions what you are offering. Now, encapsulation is collection of data and the actions along with their implementation. Name of the service and how the service is implemented. I hope you got my point. From the concept of encapsulation, what we derived? Class. No. Polymorphism. Next concept what we have is polymorphism. What is a polymorphism? Let us see. These three people went to a restaurant. When they went to a restaurant, they want to pay the bill. First guy made a payment by cash. Second guy made a payment by credit card. Third guy made a payment by debit card. All these three people have done what? All these three people, now somebody paid by cash, somebody paid by debit card, somebody paid by. Now, polymorphism. There are three ways. Somebody paid by cash, somebody paid by debit card, somebody paid by credit card. So, cash, debit card, credit card. Now, these are the three different actions what we are performing. Somebody paid by cash, somebody by credit card, somebody by debit card. Now, what is the action they are doing? They are performing an action called payment of the bill. But the way they are making a payment is different. But all of them are doing the Somebody is very convenient by making a payment by credit card. Somebody is happy to pay by cash. Somebody is happy to pay by debit card. When I say only cash is accepted, I may lose some customers. When I say only debit card is accepted, credit card is accepted, I may lose some customer. To make it customer friendly, to provide services to all type of customers, the same thing I represented in more than one form. Representing same action in more than one form to support all type of customers. To represent more than one action in the same form, representing the same action in more than one form is called polymorphism. Representing more than one action, representing action more than in one form. I hope you got my point. Representing the action in more than one form to support all category of customers is called polymorphism. User friendliness. Let me make it. People are with question marks. Now, let me give you an example of your style. Now, did the government of India pass any GO that if you want to propose a girl, this is only the procedure you have to follow? Now, do you have any such type of standard? If somebody want to propose, instructions are given by government of India, you have to follow only this procedure? No, right? Somebody is happy to propose with a flower. Somebody is happy to propose with a ring. Somebody is happy to propose with a credit card. Now, procedure is your choice. But in all the three cases, what he is trying to do? He is trying to propose a girl, but he is choosing the format which he is convenient with. So the same action can be performed in different ways. The same action can be performed in different ways in which he is convenient with. So representing same action in more than one form is called polymorphism. Representing same action in more than one form is called polymorphism. Representing same action in more than one form is called polymorphism. I hope you are good with this. So internally, the concept of polymorphism has given to. Until we have overriding also. Basically, overriding should fall under inheritance. We are defining it. Overloading and overriding. These two concepts are derived from a concept called polymorphism. Right. Now, next we had next one, inheritance. What is this inheritance? Now, let me take an example. Today class you have missed. You have missed today's class. Tomorrow when you come, there are two choices for you. You can sit and write whatever the notes what I dictated in the yesterday's class, or you can take a xerox of it. Which you prefer? You prefer to take a xerox. Why? When it is already written, why you want to take a burden of writing it again? When you already written, why you want to write the burden of writing it again? Right? Try to reuse it. Try to reuse it. The same concept of inheritance. When code is already existing, when you also want the similar type of action, why are you writing one more time? Try to use the same code which is existing. If some code is already existing, you want almost the similar format of code, then don't write again. Try to reuse it. So reusability is the concept of inheritance. What is the inheritance? It's a concept of reusability. Now, let us take a common example I give. When I took this classroom, I used to take the classes in the main building. Beside the reception, I used to take the class. I used to have around 40-50 members. Okay, around 40 members I used to have. The strength of my class some 4 years back. I was taking the classes in the main building beside the reception. When my strength has grown to 50 plus, then I took this classroom. When I took this classroom, there are 3 partitions in this classroom. My strength was around 50 to 60 strength, around 60. Now I look for a classroom which can accommodate around 80 members. Now when I came here, this classroom has 3 partitions. I was also looking for the similar type of classroom which can accommodate 80 members, 1 cabin for me, 1 cabin for HR. So I was looking for the classroom, so my classroom shifted to this building. Now when I took the building, already there are 3 partitions. Now I also want 3 partitions, so I am using the same partition like this. Now I want some extra things. Then I brought projector, ACs, fans and fixed it. right? Then my strength increased to 100, 100 and 120. Then I removed one partition. Now what I'm doing, I'm not changing my classroom again. When I got it in the classroom, whatever the structure is there, which I like, I'm using it. Now I need some changes here because my strength is growing. I need a change. I removed one more partition. If something which is existing is not according to your convenience, what you are doing? I am redefining it. So I removed one partition. The strength has gone to 150, 180. I removed the second partition also. Now what is it? I am trying to reuse the same structure which is existing here. Now in this structure, the second partition I don't like. I want it to be open, so I removed it. Now when I open the second partition, I need one more projector and one more screen to fix it on the right hand side. So I brought one more projector, one more screen, I fixed it in the wall. So what is that? When I got this, already there is a room with 3 partition. I like it. I have using it. Down the time, I want some changes to be made according to my business. Whatever the structure that is existing, I don't like it. I want to change it. Then I removed one. I removed the second. I need some extra ACs and fans and projectors. I brought it and fixed it. Now what I am trying to do? Trying to reuse the same structure which is available. Trying to reuse the same structure which is available. Boss, when the existing code is meeting your requirement, the code which is already available is almost similar to your requirement, then why are you defining again and again? Try to reuse it wherever the code is not suitable to you. Wherever the code is not suitable to you, try to reuse it. Wherever the code is not suitable to you, reuse it. Wherever the code is not suitable to you, there you redefine it. If you want anything extra, you write only those extra functionalities. Then what happened? The length of the code decreased. Burden of writing the same code again is decreased. Performance will increase. So what is inheritance? It is a concept of reusability. Concept of reusability. Reusing the existing structure in your requirement. Right, boss? Okay. So your JNQ definition, acquiring the properties of one class by another class is called inheritance. Right? Okay. Come down to the next one. We had next one here. Abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance. Then again, we have exception handling. Now, what was this exception handling? Just quick idea. We'll dig into the topic one by one. Just a quick overview. What is this exception handling? Now, there are two types of exception handling. There are two types of mistakes, boss. One is a compile time errors, another one is a runtime errors. Now, in the mobile phone, okay, what are the options you have? Green button and red button. Now I want some yellow button to be kept in the mobile phone. Is it coming? Will you get it? Now what is that? Boss, you are trying to call something that is not available here. You came to join the Salesforce class. Now you are asking me to teach big data. It will not happen. I will not teach it. Now what is that? You are trying to ask something which is not in the context. Now what was that? It's an error. What type of error? Compile time error. Before starting the course, when you came for inquiry, okay, along with the Salesforce course you told, was in the Salesforce will cover big data also. Then reception told, not possible. So at the beginning of the course only, before you join the course only, you told you require this, we told it is not available. Right? Why it is called compile time error? Now it is a syntactical error, compile time error, syntactical error, compile time error. Now you are not executing, you didn't join. During the course, while course is happening, now you asked a topic that is in big data. Now this is not before the course starts. During the course when classes are going on, you ask some topics which are in big data. Then it is called runtime error. Are you getting my point? Compile time, runtime. When I say call withdraw, there is no such type of action called withdraw with us. That is what? Compile time error. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? Now you are coming for a party. Let's say I am hosting a party. I told boss, there is a dress code. Everybody has to come in black and black. There is a dress code. Now, if you are coming to the party, without the dress code, the the bouncer himself will stop you. Boss not allowed. Now you came in, that's what compile time. I gave an instruction, you are supposed to follow the instruction and use it. If you are not following the instruction, at the beginning only they will stop it. Right? Now you came in black and black, you came inside you change your dress. Then what is that? It's a runtime. We didn't expect that somebody will come and modify, change the dress inside the party. Now what is that? It's a runtime. Now if you are not following the instruction, at the beginning only they will stop it. Boss, you are not allowed to come without the dress code, they will stop you. Once you come inside the party, right, then you try to change your dress. Now that is happening at the runtime. After coming inside, you are trying to modify. When I am executing the program, you are trying to make some changes. Are you getting my point? Before execution, while execution. Before the program is running, while program is running. Before the program is running, if I can find out, if I can check the errors, it is a compile time errors. While running the program, if you are checking, it's what? Runtime errors. Compile time, runtime. Now the question here is, in both the cases, any problem that occurs at the runtime is called error. Any problem that occurs at the runtime is called error. What is that error? Abnormal behavior. I have to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it is printing only 1, 2, 9. So it is abnormal behavior. I was supposed to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is only printing 1, 2, fitting the program. Abnormal behavior. As per the logic, what you are supposed to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what are you doing? Printing 1, 2, fit the program. Now what is this called? Abnormal behavior. Abnormal behavior is called error. Now when you have abnormal behavior, right, I can handle it, I cannot handle it. I know that this type of abnormal behavior will come. I know that this type of abnormal behavior will come. Then I already prepared for it to how to handle it. That is what? Exception. Now abnormal behavior come, I don't know how to handle it. It is called error. Now when abnormal behavior happens, if you know how to handle it, it is called exception. When the abnormal behavior happens, you don't know how to handle it, it is called error. I hope you got my point. Let me give. Now let us see. Okay, I have taken my wife for a shopping. Now she told, let's go for a shopping. I thought she may purchase some clothes. I told her, okay. I have taken to some in-orbit mall. Then she entered into the jewelry shop. If I know very well in advance that she will take me to jewelry shop, at the house itself I might have stopped. This is what? Compile time error. If she give me instruction, let us go to jewelry shop, then at the going to house only I will stop. Boss, I have some class. I cannot, or I have some client meeting. I will skip off. No, she told she is shopping. I thought shopping, but unfortunately, there is a jewelry shop in the shopping mall. She get it. Now, is it compile time or runtime? It's a runtime, right? Now, until I go there, I don't know it is going to be a jewelry shop. I entered there. Now, she was trying to purchase a jewelry. She purchased an ornament, selected an ornament which is a 7 lakhs or 8 lakhs. Now, I cannot tell it's my 1 year salary. If I sell immediately, lawyer will come. Lawyer will be there with the driver's notice. Right. Then I called the sales guy. I told, boss, whatever my wife purchased, tell that it's already sold. I'll give you 50,000 as a bonus for you. If the sales guy was convinced with my offer to take 50,000 and tell my wife whatever she selected, madam is already sold. We inform you when next time when the next product comes. If he is convinced, then what happened? I was able to handle the problem which I got at the runtime. Now it's what? Exception. Problem encountered, but I know how to handle it. It has become what? Exception. If the sales guy was not convinced, he called my wife and told, your husband is selling like this. That what is that? It was error. It was error. I hope you got my point. Exception, error. Now, error, exception, both are occurring at what time? Runtime. While running the program, we are getting. Before running the program, if you have any problem, I can resolve it. Before running the program, before I start from my house, if you tell that we want this, I may convince and I may stop there itself. But this problem occurred after getting into the shopping mall. This is a runtime. So compile time, runtime. Compile time, runtime. The problems which occur at compile time are syntactic errors. Most of them are what? Syntax. S should be capital, S should be small. Okay, no such type of action available, no such type of variable available. Okay, that's a compiled. Runtime, there is issue with your logic. Issue with the logic. Well, there is an issue with the logic. If you know how to handle, it becomes what? Exception. If you don't know how to handle, it becomes what? Error. I hope you got the story. So, exception handling. Now, in case if you get a runtime error, how to handle it is defined with exception handling. So, these are the major topics what we are going to get in the OOPS. Abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, exception, which we'll be learning down the line with respect to the effects. I hope the basic idea is clear for everyone. Okay. Now, come down to the programming. Let us start the programming. Any programming language, let it be a Python, let it be a COBOL, let it be a C, Java, or it may be anything. Irrespective of the programming language, every programming language will start with lexicon. Right. Every programming language will start with lexicon. What is that lexicon? Look at the point. I have some statement like this. It is called statement. Every line with semicolon is a statement. It is a statement. What did I do? I broke it. This is how we got. Integer, a value equal to b value plus. Now what did I do? I broke the statement into small segments. I broke the statement into small pieces where no piece can be redivided. I cannot break any segment. I am breaking the given statement into small segments in such a way that no segment can be broken down. No segment can be further broken. Such a segment is called lexicon. So what is the lexicon? I is a lexicon. N. So all these are lexicons. This is what we got. This is what we got. It's called lexicon. This is what we got. It is a lexicon. Now, if you look at this, some of the lexicons may have meaning, some of them doesn't have meaning. I, no meaning. N, no meaning. Equal to, this is a meaning. Plus, this is a meaning. Semicolon, there is a meaning. So every lexical may or may not have meaning associated with it. Lexical may have meaning, may not have meaning. So each lexical is called character. In the programming, we call them as characters. As per the programming language, what is the term we call as character? Every lexical is called a character. So when you break the given statement into small segments in such a way that no segment can be redivided, such a segment is called lexicon. Every lexical may have a meaning, may not have a meaning. Every lexical may have a meaning, may not have a meaning. Right. Now, lexicals are also called as characters in the program. So what is a character? It is a lexicon. Smallest unit of programming. Smallest unit of programming. 1 character, 0 character, semicolon, equal to, plus, sign. Every symbol, every alphabet, every character, every space is a lexicon. If I give a space also, is a lexicon. So lexicals are also called as characters. I hope you got my point. Okay. Now, the given statement such a way that the given statement is broken into small segments in such a way that no segment can be broken. Such a segment is called. Then such a segment is called lexical. Now here this is a statement what we are taking. Every lexical may or may not have meaning associated with it. Every lexical may or may not have meaning associated with it. Every lexical may or may not have meaning associated with it. Every lexical may or may not have meaning associated with it. This example what we are taking. Then we have token. What is this token? I have integer a value equal to b value plus this is what we have. Now we have integer a value equal to b value plus 10. Integer a value equal to b value plus 10. I broke them into small segments. When I broke them into small segments, now each segment is called token. Each segment is called token. Integer a value equal to b value right token. So we have integer a value equal to b value plus 10. Now what happened here? Integer, there is a meaning for it. A value equal to b value plus 10 semicolon. So what was this integer? It is a keyword. A value identifier equal to operator. B value identifier plus operator. 10 constant. Right, this is what we got. Now token type. Token type. So integer is a keyword. A value identifier equal to operator. B value identifier plus operator. 10 constant. Semicolon. Now we have a group of. So tokens are classified into 5 types. Keywords, identifiers, operators, constants, and separators. So what is a token? When the statement is broken into small segments, when the token is broken into small segments in such a way that when a token is broken into small segments in such a way that every segment has a meaning associated with it. In such a way that every token has a meaning associated with it. Every token has a meaning associated with it. Such a token, such a segment is called token. Tokens are further classified into 5 types. keywords, identifiers, operators, constant, separators. I hope you are good with this. What was that? Segments. In such a way that every segment has meaning associated with it. Such a segment is called tokens are further identifiers Tokens are further classified into 5 types: identifiers, keywords, constants, operators, separators. Tokens are further classified into 5 types: identifiers, keywords, constants, operators, separators. Tokens are further classified into 5 types: identifiers, keywords, constants, operators, separators. This is the format in which we are defining. Tokens are further classified into 5 types: identifiers, keywords, constants, operators, separators. I hope you got my point. So what is the difference between lexical and token? Token is a collection of lexicals which will have some meaningful segment. Token is a collection of lexical. Each lexical is called character. Right. Now tokens are further classified into keywords, identifiers, operators, okay, separators, and constants. I hope you are good with this. Right, boss? No. Let us go to this one. I am writing like void show. You wrote something like this. Now what was that? Void show so here also void is a keyword, show is the identifier, this is the separator, integer is a keyword, age is an identifier, closing bracket, then float bracket is a separator. Are you getting my point? So everything that you write is broken down into small segments. Right? Each segment is called token. Now when you are going for this, first thing that we have, constants. What are the constants? Elements whose values can't be altered. Elements whose values can't be altered during the runtime of a program. Now I have taken 10. 10 remains 10 irrespective of where you write. Irrespective of how many times you execute, the value of 10 will not change. I wrote Satish. The value of Satish doesn't change irrespective of where you use, how many times you run the program. They are called as what? Constant. Elements whose values cannot be altered are called constants. Elements whose values cannot be altered is called constant. Elements whose values cannot be altered is called constant. Elements whose values cannot be altered is called constants. I hope you are good with this. Now, let me put in the definition. Elements whose values doesn't change during the runtime of a program. Elements whose values doesn't change during the runtime of the program is called constants. Constants are classified into two types. Numerical constant then we have string constant. Numerical constants and string constants. Now, numerical constants and string constants. What are the numerical constants? Any value that is formed with the digits 0 to 9 with a plus or with a sign or without sign, with a decimal point or without decimal point is called numerical constant. Any value that is formed with the digits 0 to 9 with decimal point, without decimal point, with sign, without sign of a number is called numerical constant. Let me give any value that is formed this. Any value that is formed using digits 0 to 9 with or without decimal point and with or without sign of the number is called numerical constant. Any value that is formed using digits 0 to 9 with or without decimal point and with or without sign of the number is called numerical constant. Any value that is formed with the digits 0 to 9 with or without sign or with or without decimal point is called numerical constant. So any value that is formed with the digits 0 to 9 is called numerical constant. Right, boss? Next we have string constant. Any value that is formed, okay, any value that is defined within the single quotes called, if you wrap any data within the single quotes, it is a string. Even though it is a numerical value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it is wrapped within the single quote, it is a string. Generally, apart from digits, if you have any other, we take it as string. If the value contains any other element other than digits, generally we take it as string. If the value contains anything, any other character other than digits 0 to 9, we take it as string. Right. This is how we are giving. String constant. Any value that is formed or any value that is defined in the single quotes is called string constant. Any value that is defined within the single quotes is called string constant. Right, boss? I hope you are good with this. Clear with this? String constant and numerical constant. We have literals. Some constant literals. What are they? True, false. We have some fixed constant literals. The values are true, false, null. They're constant literals. Now true, false, null. These are the three special literals which are available as a constant. Right, boss? I hope you are good with this. They're called constants. The next one. What are separators? Everyone is good with this? The people who are new to the programming. Right. Now, we're going with separators. Now, when you say separators, they are used to separate the elements in the programming. Now, we have symbol. Functional braces. Scope braces. Array braces. They're called separators. Semicolon. Now, we have the functional braces, scope braces, array braces, semicolon, colon, period, comma. They are used to separate the elements. They are used to separate the elements. These are called separator. Functional braces, scope braces, array braces, semicolon, colon, period, comma. Functional braces, scope braces, semicolon, colon, period, comma. They are called separators. They are used to separate the elements. They are used to separate the elements in the programming. Right. So we'll see the identifiers and the rest of the story in the tomorrow. And before I wind, I'll make the few points very clear in the beginning of the development classes. First point, I am going to make you to write the programs in the class. If you are doing some examples in the class itself, the duration may increase. If everybody is okay with that, we'll try to do practice examples in the class itself, the primary point. If everyone is okay. If you are doing some examples, okay, some use cases we are implementing in the class, if I make you to implement some use cases live in the class, then the duration may slightly increase. If everyone is okay with that, we'll try to practice some use cases in the class itself. I'm making it at the very beginning, I'm making it. Okay. Later on, you should not come on me that duration is increasing. Okay. Now, I'm making very clear. The classes, generally, this is the format of my development classes. This is how my development classes goes. Let me open any one of the current batch. I have think there. So I'll cover the topic, give one or two examples, then I give a list of exercises which we generally complete. I'll make the people to complete the class itself to understand the logic writing. If you are doing this format, let's say this. Once I have done the example, I'll give some use cases and ask the people to implement live in the class. Okay. If you are implementing this format, then duration will be slightly increased because you take time to write the code. You take the time to write the code. So something like that. So I'll make you to write the programs live in the class. So because of this, it may reduce. Okay. If you're okay with that, we'll also implement. I'll make you to implement. It's not I implement. I'll make you to implement use cases in the class. Is that okay with everyone? Right. Now, because of that, the duration may slightly increase, making very clear in the beginning. Because if I ask you to implement the use case in the class, it takes some extra time. If everyone is okay with that, we go with making you to implement the use cases in the class. Right? I'm making very clear. If I do that, the duration will slightly increase. If you are okay with that, I'll do it. There is no issue, right? Nobody has marriage in the next month. Immediately I have to complete the course and get the job and get married. No, right? No issue, right? Okay. The second thing, second point, development classes. If you listen and go, there is no use. Now, at the end of the game, if you don't get hands-on experience, the time and money what you are spending will go waste. By the time you complete the course, you should be able to write the programs by your own. If you are unable to write the programs by your own, the time what you spend, money you spend, both will be going waste. Now, the development classes, you need to have hands-on experience. Whatever the use cases I am making in the class, if you make a sincere attempt of writing the program, 60 to 70% of the topic will be, well, okay, you follow it, write a program in the class itself. But the attempt should be sincere from your end. Second point. Third, people stop copying the programs in the class. If you are busy in putting everything that I am putting on the board on your books, neither you follow my class, nor you will be able to write program. I will not give that much time to copy the programs. Right? My face will not allow you to copy the programs. You cannot copy at least 50% of the program in your book. Right? If you make an attempt to write a program what I typed in the notepad, hardly 50% also will not be able to copy. So don't make an attempt of copying the program on your book. Just listen to the conversation, and when I give the exercises, try to implement. Then, third point, I will answer your questions at the time of giving the exercises. Now I'll explain the topic. After the topic, I'll be giving 4 to 5 exercises. I'll be giving. When other people are implementing the exercises, when other people are reading the exercises, people, whatever the queries you have, ask your queries during the time. So while explaining the topic, listen to the topic. Immediately I'll cover one example and I'll give exercises to the remaining people. When other people are writing the program use cases in the class, then you ask your question so that no one's time will be wasted. Right? If you're interrupting me at every point and asking a question, the discussion will go on. So when other people are taking a exercise, that time I'll be idle, sitting here idly. So that time, that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever the time I'll be sitting here idle, you can use that for asking the question. Every topic I'll be giving. So every topic I cover, 5 to 10 minutes will be spent for writing the exercise in between the class. So hardly will be getting around 15-20 minutes time in implementing the use cases. During that 15-20 minutes time, you can ask your use cases. So do not ask the queries while we are explaining it. Ask your queries while other people are writing use cases. For every topic, for every 10-15 minutes, there will be a use case for implementation. So while other people are implementing the use case, ask your question so that the time will not be wasted. The 10 minutes of time will be sitting idle. So put all your questions during the 10 minutes of time so that, okay, the time will be used well. I'm making very clear. Do not interrupt me at every point of line I write. Ask your question when the 10 minutes or 15 minutes start for doing the exercise. So probably we may have 2 or 3 slots during the class. So the 10-15 minutes is sufficient to answer all your queries. So every topic, at the end, I'll be giving exercise. While you're implementing the exercise, please ask me the question. Right. The point here is different people will have different technical background. So everybody start comparing everything with their application. Most of your employees. Now every line that I put in my Oracle apps, how this line will be there. In my .NET, how this line will be there. Everything that you put immediately compare with your application. So this will lead to, okay, the order of the topic will be lost. The people who are very new to the programming, if I go in a jumbled way, the order of the topic will be lost. The people will not be able to follow. Right. So there will be a different category of people with a different level of IQ. So let us not disturb the flow of it. Now we go in a particular order. I'll give the time for every topic. Well, other people are taking the exercises. Please ask your question. I'm making very clear so that the time will not be wasted. Right. The third one, your programs, I'll give the username password. Every program I'm typing, you can log into my account, access the program. The purpose of giving the username password is not for copy paste. The purpose of giving my username password is you re-execute the program what I have given so that you understand the flow before you re-implement it. When you put the program in your book, you only know the structure of the program, but you don't know how it is implementing. Now once you go back, you get back to a system, whatever the username password I have given, execute the program, understand it. Okay. And people who are very new to the programming, first time you are learning a program, you people try to take a backup class of one more repetition. Right. So I'm giving about a worst scenario. If you get everything in the first go, it's very good. When you say you get everything means you are able to write every program what we covered. It's good. If you are unable to write any particular concept, you are not done with the development. Take the repetition class for it. So the people who are very new to the development, don't expect the miracles to happen in 1 hour class. Right. Now I'm speaking about the people, okay, average and below average guys. Okay. If you're finding it difficult, immediately look at the next batch which is going to start. Take a parallel batch. So you'll have the repetition classes. Right. The people who are very new to the development, don't expect you to gain within 1 class, 1 hour class, you'll be getting 3 or 4 years of experience. That will not be possible practical. So you practice the second session. Take the repetition class so that when you take the next time, you understand already, you know the topics, you know the basics of programming, you get the topics well and right. Okay. Now if you're getting everything in the first go, it's very good. I'm not speaking about the best scenario. I'm giving about the worst scenario. The people with the different IQ levels, if you find it difficult, immediately look at the other batch which is starting, take a repetition. Free of cost, they'll not be charging. So you can take a repetition class for them. Okay. Then you can take the repetition class. The third point, now remove the version of real time, the definition of real time in every page. Faculty sit here and type, you observe the screen and you want to gain 3 years of real time knowledge, that will not happen. That's not called a real time. When you implement, it becomes a real time. When you implement, it will become a real time. Now the use cases which are given to you, try to implement those use cases from your end. If I implement and give a solution, there is nothing that you are doing other than DTP operation. Each and every use case, what I gave the exercise, if I implement, you just want to copy the code, copy paste it, execute, output came, no error, talia bajao, yes, what the concept will not be. The real time, it means you implement it, the bugs what you got. Now you need to analyze it, how it should be implemented. If you are trying to implement what are the bugs you got, how to fix it. If you analyze it, Google it, resolve it, this is what your real time experience is. Now, whatever the 7 years of experience I have, I am putting in a form of example, typing here, executing here. You want to observe it and you want to apply with 7 years of experience. That's not practical. So, real time experience is that what you gain out of your implementation. While you are trying to attempt an implementation of the use cases, every use case what we are designing, every example we are designing is a use case. Now, if I give the step of use case, how to implement, what concept should be used. The primary problem here is, when I cover a list concept, I'll give all the examples on the list. There is no intelligence required from your end. If you do one example, remaining 4 also you can do it, because all the examples are going to be the same syntax. If I cover a array, all the remaining examples will be doing, because all the examples are going to be with the same syntax. So when you do this type of thing, you will not get anything. You want to get a practical knowledge, you are supposed to take a combination of this. The combination of this, when you try to implement, then only you will be able to understand the concept. If you learn every topic individually, there is no use. To understand the combination, there is exercises posted in the Facebook community. Go to my Facebook community, Satish Mala Notes. There are exercises given there, almost 300 use cases are there. Try to implement. The day you implement those use cases, then only you will be able to make it. The next, we need a real-time project to implement it. Boss, already you have a Salesforce CRM application developed by Salesforce. Now re-implement the same application. Salesforce people already given the CRM application for you, right? It's already built. You rebuild the same application with your own programming. Whatever the topics you are learning, using those topics, try to build this entire concept. Let us say lead. When I click on the lead tab, I want the following page with the following structure. When I give an option, list of records should come. When I select edit, records should be opened in edit format. When I click on save, records should be saved. Already it's a functionality developed with the Salesforce. You re-implement the same functionality with the topics what you learn, and implement the same functionality. The complete end-to-end process is there. Salesforce has already designed complete end-to-end CRM application. You design the same program, same pages, same structure with the topics what you learn, you get end-to-end knowledge. You don't require again a separate XYZ application to implement. Whatever the Salesforce is giving you as a predefined application, try to build those pages and structure. It is more than sufficient. When you try to implement this type of example, you analyze, okay, if I want a page like this, what topic I have to apply? That is what is called a real-time knowledge. If I have already given an example, create a page block table, use a command link, use an image, display the data using a data table, click on this, ID equal to so-and-so. If I give it, there is nothing that you are trying to apply from your end. You are simply trying to replicate my intelligence. which will not give you a practical exposure. When you want to do a practical exposure, take any one of the object in the Salesforce, let it be a lead or account or opportunity, then try to implement from first page to last page every functionality what Salesforce has given you on the standard pages. You try to re-implement the same functionality using your Visualforce and Apex. If you are able to achieve 20 to 30%, complete knowledge you will be getting. So don't excuse yourself that we don't have a knowledge to practice. You have existing Salesforce CRM. It is a live application, right? 30 million customers are using it. What else application you require for practicing? They are given you as predefined. Now you are asking you to build it as programmatically. Same thing what they have given, you implement it as a programmatically. Step by step concept. And the last point here, when you are practicing, don't practice every topic. See that you keep on adding the new concept to the existing pages. Because 90% of the time will be adding the new functionality to the existing code. You're in the real time, when you get into companies, most of your work is appending the code. So when you look at 1000 lines of code or 500 lines of code, you should not be terrified and come back to repeat again. So keep increasing the code when you're writing a first example. Second topic, append the same code in the first example. Third topic, append the same code in the third example. Okay, first example. Keep on adding all the code to the program. When you want to print high, also print it 100 times, so that you see the length of the program. As the program length increases, the confidence levels and debugging skills will increase. As an experience, what you are supposed to understand is debugging level. Because you are going to append the code into the existing code, we need to see what type of bugs we are going to get, how to resolve it. That knowledge you will be gaining only when the length of the program is increased. If you simply practice with good night, good morning, hi, bye, you get output, but you will not get any knowledge on it. So you have to ensure that every topic we are covering, even if it is one input text box, take 30 boxes and print it. See that the length of the code is increasing, so that when you look at the 200 lines or 400 lines of code, you understand how to analyze the code. There is a skill that is required. Now we are taking one input text box and doing an example. While you practice, take 10 or 20. See that the length of the code increases. These are some of the points which you have to keep in mind before you get into the development. So if you follow in this procedure, you understand the development, you get the skills. Again, I'm making at the end of the course, if you are unable to write a program, your time and money both will be wasted. And people know yourself, what is your IQ, what is your grasping level. I cannot judge that. And from your end, you can understand what is your IQ, what is your grasping level. Now, people who feel it's difficult for you to understand, now whenever the next batch starts immediately, probably in a couple of days, one more batch, development batch will start. Right? Maybe 15 days or 20 days after 20 days. Immediately retake the development class in that batch. So that already you have done on course once. When you take a repetition, it will be easy for you to grasp it. People who are finding it difficult. Okay. You know, videos are there. I gave class, I gave videos. Even by watching the video, you are finding it difficult. I ask you to take repetition. Still you are finding difficult, quit the course. There is another option. Because once you go through the topic number of times in the videos, by then you should be able to. Right? Still come back to the repetition. Still you are finding difficult, it's out of my hands. Right? Right? That's I'm making very clear. People who are very new to the programming, I'm making very clear for you. You mentally prepared to retake the course one more time. It is good for you. It is good for you. Right? Chalo boss. That's all from my end.